What's up everybody, Idle Survivors globally launched recently and I wanted to share my tier list. I did make a community forum post in the Idle Survivors Discord right here where I wanted to give the opportunity for other players feedback so I can make sure I was on the right track for my rankings. If interested in this game, I do have my own link for you to download the game through, which is in the pinned comment. It does help out the channel. I will highlight each tier with the heroes in there for my reasoning. Then at the end of the video, I will give the current meta lineup options based off the tier list. Let's get it. So starting off in the F tier, aka food, basically this will be all your 4-star heroes that you're going to turn into 5-star for guaranteed hero food. What I have done in past games is put the natural 5-star heroes in the food list, but I'd rather let you decide on that. So basically what I mean is if we go over here to the Ascension Institute, basically all these heroes down here, these 4-star heroes that you can build up, it takes 4 of them to build into a 5-star. All of these heroes are going to be your food and these are your F tier. Moving up to the C tier or mediocre, these are heroes who are not going to perform well, or I guess easily replaced is the better wording, can be used as food right away, which is your choice, or you can keep until you get the better version of the role they play, meaning like for the S hero, the Guardian, the better version would be the double S hero Boxer, or the Master Samurai, those both will work. Or for the S hero Rose Vigilante, the better version will be the double S hero Shadow Knight or Blade Killer, both of those will work as well. I personally wouldn't take any of these heroes beyond 6 stars so you can feed them later, as that is going to be your first main bottleneck for hero ascensions, which is going to be 6 stars and then again at 9 star. If you're trying to build up your hero resonance center, focus on the higher tier rated heroes first from the B tier and above for better longevity value, as you will be eating up gene potions like Skittles. Moving up to the B tier or good, this is going to be your first stop with usable heroes and has a few S heroes best in their class. The heroes in this tier can serve you for early game. I really don't know when early game ends, but I guess a simple way to put this is if the majority of your lineup is S heroes, I consider that early. If the majority is double S with a few S heroes, maybe with a few level 200s, that's going to be your mid game. If the majority is double S and triple S heroes with all your heroes level 200, that's going to be late game, and then eventually all triple S heroes in your lineup with a hero resonance level of 240 plus, that's going to be your end game. It really doesn't matter if you're free to play or a spender, this will apply to both. So Madden Musician is going to be one of the easiest heroes to get for heals due to her being an S hero. She offers your heroes a shield based off of her ultimate, she also gives heals, and she also applies a defense debuff, so your heroes are going to do more damage. I would consider this hero right here the best S healer. Moving over to the Party Queen, she is a solid starter tank. I actually have mine currently built to 9 stars, so I can use as hero food later, but I do currently use her in the Bounty Association Skyscraper Tower. She has okay sustain, good damage, and a really unique skill here called Suppression. It's based off of her ultimate, where it renders the enemy unable to attack and move. So if you pair that with her damage reduction skill, anti-infection, and then also her HP recovery based off this skill right here, this is going to make her the best S hero tank. Steel Captain, who I thought was named Steel Soldier, he does okay AoE DPS, and he also gives an attack speed buff to your backline heroes. I consider him more of a support DPS, so that is why I placed him here. Moving over to Outlaw Arrow. Now unfortunately he doesn't stack up compared to the other double S heroes. His ultimate right here summons a falcon who inherits a percentage of his attack, so a higher ascension is needed to make good use out of this. He does have a silence debuff, which is helpful though, which I believe is on his second skill right here. Due to the War Ceremony event, I'll put the picture right here, that happens when you start off in a server, this is going to give you a fair amount of his copies, so due to that, he is an easy choice to star up to build up your resonance center. Sea Thug I used a lot starting out. He has some really insane AoE damage because of his ultimate Cannon Barrage seen right here. If you pair that with his passive Irritable Blood, he has potential for some high damage because you're always going to have a minimum of 5 enemies either PvE or PvP unless it's like a guild boss or some kind of a world boss. So that's a guaranteed attack boost. In campaign mode, stages flood the screen with enemies, so his attack skyrockets for easy damage. And lastly, we have Imperial Captain, definitely the best S hero DPS starter, however is primarily single target focused. He does have the ability to do some AoE, but it's based off getting the enemy kill with his ultimate. I suggest pairing him with an AoE DPSer, so it's easier for him to proc the bounce DPS based off the enemy kill. So for the next tier, we have A tier or great. I think at least one of the heroes in this tier you'll be using for quite some time. Master Samurai. Now, one of the reasons why he's rated right here is the amount of copies this game offers you. You're going to get a lot of these. You have your first top-up box seen here. Then there's other boxes with him in it. I forgot when and how, but you do get a fair amount of copies of him. He's a solid frontliner tank with some DPS. And he also has some lifesteal. It's not great, but he does have that self-heal. You will definitely need to pair him with a healer, and I can also recommend investing into him to help build up your Resonance Center and a stronger lineup. As you can see, mine is at 10 stars. So Shadow Knight has potential for very high burst single target damage based off his ultimate. This also applies energy reduction on the enemy, so heroes that are very ultimate focused, which many of the heroes in this game are, this is going to help keep them from using it. He has a leap feature, which I believe is his last skill, where he jumps to the enemy with the highest attack in the back row, so depending on who that is, it can be a game changer paired with his ultimate. Fatal Lily is a good hero to take out back row enemies, and she also gains a damage buff against the firepower, shooting, and support classes based off of this skill right here. If you are unfamiliar of how to tell what class a hero is, it's this icon right here, which is at the top right of their skills. Solid damage and excels better depending on the enemy setup. Moving over to Bio Weirdo, probably the most tank-like hero in the game, meaning his damage is very low and his survivability can be very high. The issue I have with him is the self-healing he has is based off his little green drops that have a base chance of 30% of spawning when he takes damage, meaning his survivability is inconsistent. The drops also need to move towards him, so if he's bounced around from enemies with, say, knockback, the drops will have further distance to cover before they even reach and heal him, so he's going to need strong healer support to stay alive longer consistently. The Boxing King has surprising damage numbers based off his ultimate Megaton Punch and combo boxing skill seen right here, while adding in some damage reduction and self-heal based off of his kit. I think if I had to choose between him and Bio Weirdo, I would go with the Boxing King because he's an all-around frontliner. Blade Killer, I haven't tested, but I'm pretty sure is on par with Shadow Knight or maybe slightly less damage, but her utility is also very different. She has a silence debuff and also has damage immunity when taking fatal damage, so her survivability is a lot better. As you can see in this tier, I placed a lot of assassins, and that's just because I don't like that sort of playstyle, as I find they always die early compared to, say, 2 ranged DPSers in the back row, so that's just overall going to be a DPS loss. Moving up to the S tier or excellent, this is where you're going to start seeing some nice power boosts from this tier and on if investing into the heroes. So for the hero Warlord, he does good damage and he's tanky due to his damage reduction, but even when he did get his own interstellar event, I didn't see many players even going for him. One of the main reasons why I don't like his kit is War Master's skill allows him to gain 1 layer of Power of War for each basic, which increases the damage the more stacks, but it's cleared on a new enemy. So this game, speaking of PvP, many run supports with revive, so I feel he's just going to be constantly swapping targets, resetting the stacks. I can see him being more valuable in a burst heavy AoE setup, because his ultimate right here allows him to target the back row enemy with the lowest HP, so he could snipe an annoying support. Card Magician, many consider him to be the best SS DPS hero in the game. He has a very strong burst damage kit. I do feel he needs a lot of star investment, as early on he's just okay. He has a unique ability in regards to he has 3 different colored cards. The red card does increase range damage, the yellow does increase damage to enemies in a line, and then the blue card deals bounce damage. So because of this, there is potential for inconsistent damage results based off the card types. For Miss Poison, now some might not have her rated this high, which is fine because she does need a specific setup to showcase her damage. If you run a sustained team, meaning you have a healer or healers, you will see a difference in her damage. She is an AoE DPSer, but her damage ramps up based off the wounds debuff she applies because it goes by stacks. So early in the fight, her DPS won't be great. Later in the fight, it's going to be awesome, and then she also has some self-healing based off her wound stack damage. Armored Sage, so to me this hero does okay damage with the potential for higher, but the main draw for him is he spawns clones with his ultimate to boost his survivability / distract enemies. The main issue with his damage is he requires a high star investment because his clones inherit 75% of his attributes. A low star is going to have low values, so the clones do nothing and are defeated quite easily, which in turn drops his DPS because the clones aren't doing much damage and for each clone that survives, when he re-enters, he gains a damage buff. To me, he's just not worthy enough to use, like, say, those SSS hero choice cards on, so getting enough copies to make late endgame viable is just unlikely. Imperial Warrior, I'm not too familiar with this hero, but he does have potential to be an all-around good hero with DPS and tank capability. He does have better survivability than other heroes with his shield and damage reduction. He also has two different forms, Samurai and Jedi Samurai, which I think is actually pretty interesting. Both forms are triggered by either the battle duration or if his HP falls below a specific amount. One key thing to note here is when the battle goes on for 30 seconds or he drops below 35% HP, his Jedi Samurai form becomes permanent, giving him a damage and damage reduction buff. Almost done, we have 2 more tiers to go, moving into the SS or top class heroes. Firefox Rider, so this hero is pretty unique and a little confusing, but the way I see him operating is he has different states. One where he's on the motorcycle and one where he isn't. Both states he can do high damage, but his self-sustain kicks in during mount state with HP recovery and energy gain. He also has a self-revive on his passive right here. He has very high damage potential. Smiling Apostle, I think he may be one of the highest AoE damagers in the game. Every time I see the enemy or see in PvP, the damage output he can do is very high. One of the interesting things is he summons a cube that acts like a vortex to suck in the enemies to a concentrated spot. Lots of AoE potential and has some neat debuffs like speed reduction, knockback to protect frontline, and he also has a defense reduction. Next we have Dr. Smart. I actually love this hero and the damage he can do is pretty big. He will be huge on bosses because of his ultimate where if he shoots the same target 3 times, he does increase damage. Doesn't have consistent damage due to the fact he deals the most in overloaded state, which is when he uses this ultimate right here. One of the things many don't know is because he has a self-destruct skill called Extreme Running, when he takes fatal damage, he enters an undead overload state, launching missiles till it's up and then he rushes to the nearest enemy and self-destructs. So can he be revived? Well, yes, he can, so that is why the potential for damage is even more, say if you run him with Holy Bishop, because each time he's revived, then he self-destructs, then he gets revived, self-destructs. That's a lot of burst damage. I think if you don't use Holy Bishop, or at least at the very minimum Sacred Gun, he will be less effective and probably be more so S tier. So for Sacred Gun, this will be the hero you want for quite some time in your lineup until you replace with a SS hero Holy Bishop. For a healer, she still has the ability to dish out some damage because of the skill Blessed Gun, very strong single target heals, and also has a single hero revival. You will be using her for quite some time, so you can invest into her, put her up to a high star level, and you won't have to worry about, oh, this was a bad investment. Stellar Archer has potential for some extremely high damage due to her kit being crit based but very glass cannon. I think even at low stars she can still do well for your lineup because of the crit factor. Not much really else to say other than she's mostly single target focused, honestly kind of a boring skill kit in my opinion. Reformed Tyrant is also a tank on the tier list that can still do some good damage. Bio Weirdo is just a damage soaker, he is just meant there to be a frontline pinata. Reformed Tyrant has an all-around great kit. He can tank, he can damage, he can CC, but he also has a very unique skill that makes him fit this tier. Mechanical Hook, seen right here, pulls the furthest enemy on your side of the battlefield, so if you position him right for the threat you want to eliminate, and he pulls that enemy towards you, your heroes are going to swap focus and delete that hero much quicker. Other than that, he has a shield at the beginning of battle, plus generates throughout the battle. He has damage debuffs, AoE damage, and silence, which is pretty massive for this game. And finally, the be-all, end-all, the best in-game, the SS or the God tier heroes. Justice Angel, in my opinion, is overall the best hero in the game at the time of this video. It can change as new heroes come out, but right now, she's definitely the best. The reason being is she has great sustain due to the fact that she gains a shield based off ultimate damage done, plus she has a skill just for a shield buff and self-heal. She has top tier damage and she also has a self-revive with a small timer of invincibility. Field Medic is one of the best healer supports in the game due to the fact that she's only a SS hero and has more tankiness due to her defense buffs than some of the natural tanks in this game. You can place her as a frontliner and she still will not go down easy. Nothing more to say here, but you do want to place her in the front line because of her passive. For every one enemy unit within close range, she's going to get an additional def boost on top of her ultimate, also providing a def boost to your heroes. Coral Diva is the best healer in the game, hands down. even at 1 copy, so 5 stars, you will see a major improvement in the survivability of your lineup. She did get a recent nerf pre-global launch, but still provides crazy healing on multiple skills on her ultimate, on this one, and she also has a damage reduction skill called Note Link for your heroes. Moving on to Holy Bishop, personally my favorite hero in the game, and was the first hero I went all in for during his Interstellar event. His main purpose is revival and buffs. He did get a recent nerf, but still allows for revival of your heroes and a damage and damage reduction buff. His healing can be good, but it's very RNG dependent on his ultimate, meaning he will do more healing the more heroes he revives. He can do multiple at once. That is what puts him so much more higher than Sacred Gun, who only revives 1 hero at a time. If timed correctly, say if you lose 3 heroes, then you pop his ultimate, you will see a significant boost to his healing. He's more of a manual hero, but still performs well on auto. He also has a skill here called Sacred Field, which applies a field shield to all friendly units, going to allow your heroes to block skill damage and effects, which is very good against burst DPS enemy lineups. Sublime Spear, this game is pretty PvP focused, so because this hero has a ban healing effect, plus a banned revival effect on his ultimate, this puts him in this category alone. Many enemy lineups will run healers or heroes with revives. Sublime Spear completely counters all of this. Banned healing means they can no longer recover life or receive healing. Banned means their revival is guaranteed to fail. He also has self-healing and an attack steal, which is pretty huge, especially for bosses, and teleports at the beginning of the battle to target a specific back row enemy with the highest attack for burst damage. Soul Guardian is a strong frontliner and definitely a big counter to the current meta of healers right now, as he has an AoE heal reduction debuff on his ultimate, he has a self-heal, and he has really nice damage. Also, in my opinion, I feel he has the best hero design. I actually do regret not going for him during the Interstellar event, because when I did the testing, his damage numbers and tank numbers were very, very high. Now recently a new hero has joined the game, Lord of Thunder. Now on paper, if we look at his skills, he looks to be a very strong AoE damager, plus he has CC crowd control in the form of a stun. He's definitely a glass cannon. I see no defensive traits whatsoever in his kit. Currently right now he has his own Interstellar Summon event. I'm not going to spoil it, but he is providing to be very strong from what I've tested. I would say right now he's in the double S tier. The issue is these heroes become stronger the more Ascension stars, as that unlocks level ups for their skills, so unless the hero is maxed, you really won't know their true potential. In terms of the current meta lineup, it's going to consist of 3 supports and 2 DPS. For those 3 supports, you could run 2 healers, 1 tank, or 3 healers, but you'll definitely want at least 2 healers. Heroes to fill this trifecta would be like the 2-1 split of Double S heroes Field Medic and Sacred Gun as healers, plus you can use Master Samurai as a tank, or something like 3 healers with Field Medic plus Coral Diva and Sacred Gun. If anything, one of these 3 supports needs to be Coral Diva, because what she can do is just a necessity for every part of the game. For the 2 DPS, you have many options, basically any 2 DPS heroes you have invested into, but ideally you're going to want to run a AoE damage and a single target DPSer to snipe the low HP enemies. Based off the heroes I've acquired so far, eventually my dream setup, currently I use Miss Poison, Field Medic, Dr. Smart, Coral Diva, and then Holy Bishop. This is really good because I also get the aura bonus of the 4 same faction heroes, so that's 15% HP and 15% attack. If I'm looking for my dream setup based off the heroes I have acquired so far, eventually I would be replacing Miss Poison for Justice Angel. I only have 1 copy of her right now, but this will definitely be an annoying setup with all the revives and heals with decent DPS output. If you have your own thoughts of heroes in specific tiers, be sure to leave a comment down below, because this is just my opinion based off my experience so far. Obviously not everyone will agree with what is being said. As always, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.